Did you guys pick up any of the latest scrapbook.com Halloween exclusives? Or do you just have some other 6x8 pattern paper you want to use? Let's go make some no scrap cards. Today I am working with 6x8 paper busting template number 16. And so this takes 6x8 pattern paper, turns it into A2 size cards with no pattern paper scraps. This is template number 16, which means there are 15 other templates available at jesscrafts.com. But the very first link in the video description will be this template, and it is free when you enter your email address. But if you prefer to just get all of your templates in one big file and you don't want to be bothered with downloading individual templates and you want to see a little sneak peek, I actually have 6x8 paper busting templates 1 through 20, so 4 others after this are available right now for purchase in the Etsy shop, so you'll be able to see some of those upcoming templates ahead of time and then just get it all as one big download file. Also, if you've previously purchased the pack of 1 through 10, of course 11 through 20 will also be available and you'll get to see those new ones. So I'm using the Spooky Pattern Paper Collection from scrapbook.com. It is really cute, but it is very Halloween. It did not come with the bundle. The bundle came with the smaller size paper pad. However, I personally just used 6x8 a little bit more. I knew I had some 6x8 templates coming up I wanted to share. So while I did pick up the bundle, and I do have the smaller version of the paper pad somewhere in this mess that is considered a desk, you can't ever see it, it's all off screen, but I am going to be working with a larger one today, and then I'm going to use the Boo Ghost die cut set from that bundle. So to get started, we are going to cut our 6x8 pattern paper in half to 3x8. One of the reasons that I designed the template the way that I did, or something I was focusing on in the latter half of these templates, is ones that work with directional pattern paper. I've come up with a couple of sketches that work with 6x8 pattern paper, but if the paper is directional, like it has a clear top or bottom, it doesn't work as well. I'm going to cut that 3x8 inch to 3x5. So now I have this 3x5 piece, and I'm going to cut this 3x3 piece that's left over in half again to 1.5x3 until I make 4 1.5 inch squares. So I'll take that 1.5x3, cut it to 1.5 by 1.5. As mentioned previously, you do not need to know all of these measurements because this is a free template and all of the measurements are on said template. Now in the template, I suggest that you could get a mat for this piece and these smaller pieces. I find it's a little less important for these, or for the large piece. Like I can just do it by gluing it directly onto the pattern paper, onto the card base, and it doesn't particularly matter. Like it, tends to stand off enough, especially if it's not a white background. But with these ones here, I do actually really recommend the mat, even though these are really solid and so they don't blend in with the background particularly or anything like that. It actually just makes them a little bit larger. And I think the sketch works a little bit better if these squares are just a little bit bigger. It will, however, hide more of your pattern paper. I could totally see that this sketch might be a little bit fussy for some, or they might find that they're covering a little too much of their pattern paper. You can, of course, also use the other side, and it continues to work with that directional pattern paper. Of course, you very much want your mat in that instance. I always do like to kind of like highlight different options though. Like if I didn't want to use my die cut, I want to add a little cute ghosty today, but if I wasn't going to do that, I think I would be more inclined to do this version of the sketch and then just add this version of the pattern paper, because I'm just using the other side of the pattern paper, and just stamp a sentiment down here, and that could work really cute as well. Some pink pattern paper. There's not exactly pink in this, it's all kind of versions of orange, but I feel like pink for Halloween is definitely the thing this year, and I'm going to be using it in some of my die cutting. If I were going to die cut the mat for that large back piece, that 3x5 inch piece, I would also be inclined to do some of my other die cutting from that, the part that would be covered. So in this instance, I have a square, that's my mat, and I'm going to put this paper on top of it. That does leave me a little bit of room to die cut. So a little bit of room, I could be cutting out something that I'm going to later need. Now this is pink, so it's not as helpful. Like I could cut out the little pumpkin that the ghost is going to hold. Oh, sorry. backwards, or I could be cutting out like the little accessories that go on the pumpkin's, that ghost's hat. Things like that. So I could be taking advantage of this little bit of room, cutting out something small, and then covering on top of it. Particularly when I'm working with something like this, where I would be putting a large piece of pattern paper over a lot of cardstock, then I would certainly be trying to cut some sentiments or different things from it. So, as mentioned before, I'm going to use that die cut in just a moment, but I'm a little bit die cut challenged. I see other people make really cute things with die cuts and I get all excited and I think that I have to have it. I really want it too. I'm going to make that a super cute thing that I saw someone else do. Jennifer McGuire and Yana Smakula come to mind in terms of people who do like really beautiful die cut cards, but like it's not really my thing, to be honest with you. But scrapbook.com has some really, really cute custom or like, you know, exclusive die sets that make these really adorable little critters, and I'm super addicted to Halloween. So I really wanted to make some of these Halloween dies work, especially because they put them in the bundle prices and they're so cheap. So I wanted to kind of point out some things that might help others who are die cut challenged like me. Scrapbook.com includes a picture of how it should look assembled, which I find to be generally quite helpful because that's something that I'm going to always use as a reference, because I will never look at the pieces of a die cut and realize what they're all supposed to be without some kind of picture guide. Now on this one I've actually combined all the pieces for the witch die, so all of those also fit on this magnet sheet, which is, you know, maybe probably not helping someone like me, but I have only so much room in my collection. I thought, oh, they're both Halloween dies, and I put them together. Anyway, with this ghost die, you'll get this die here. Now that's pretty clearly a star to me. This little piece is a smile, is supposed to be the hat band, and then this little piece that kind of reminds me, sorry, I'm trying to make sure my camera focuses, like looks like a little bit of mustache, that's supposed to be their hands. If there wasn't a picture, I would have never guessed that. Now, something I will point out is this band and this star are attached, but if you cut them out of the same color, that's not what they'd show here, and it would kind of blend in a little bit. You absolutely could do it. I'm choosing not to. So what I did was I cut this die out of two like complementary, in this case I did pink and orange colors, and then that way I could switch it up across two ghosts because I was going to be making two cards anyway. Most other things are pretty straightforward. The only thing I will say is this die, this little pumpkin, it cuts out the eyes and mouth and nose. I personally am never going to fit those tiny little pieces back into here. I think it will look amazing if you go through all that work, but what I'm going to do instead, because I gotta come up with lazy ways to do this, and I actually am gonna have another video soon where I share like even more extensive lazy ways to use these kind of detailed dies with actually probably that witch set, because I was playing with it today and I was like, ooh, you know, I could like skip 3 dies or something like that if I just do it this other way. So I'm gonna take this and I am going to glue it down to a piece of black scrap paper, and I want it to be such that it actually covers the little circle at the top too. They show it as being white there at the top of the basket. I'm gonna make mine black, partly because it's easier and it makes a little bit more sense to me. And so then what I do is after I glue it down to here, while it's still relatively wet and therefore a little bit easier to move, I'm going to cut around the black cardstock instead of trying to fit anything back into it. And hopefully that makes sense. I tried to come up with a different camera angle and my cuts are not perfect, but I'll fix all that off. But my camera just keeps unfocusing when I'm trying to show you this, so hopefully I got a good one. Else who is die cut challenged like myself, a couple other little things I'll recommend, and I'll go a little bit more in detail like I said in a future video, but I like having my die cuts in trays so I don't lose all my little pieces. These are from scrapbook.com. There's many other options out there. You can literally be using like paper plates or whatever. These are kind of nice though because they do stack. So if I wanted to put a bunch of like things that I die cut and then I want to clean up my desk a little bit, I can stack them on top of each other. And since they don't touch, I never have to worry about a piece sticking to the bottom of this and then losing it. Because that has happened to me when I've had other systems where like when you stack them, they sort of nest in each other a little bit more. I'm also like terrible at paying attention. Like for instance, this pumpkin is supposed to kind of be underneath the hands. I glued the hands down before that happened, and I'm certainly not die cutting a new one. We'll just sit on top. So we're gonna glue this straight down to the card, and then I picked the Boo sentiment to go with this. Oh, and the clear drying glue is important. Barely Art glue dries clear and matte, so even though a little bit of the glue came out around the eyes, it's very, very, very subtle. Like I can see it because I know it's there, but a good clear glue that dries matte will help that. And then I took the Boo word because I'd already fussed so much with this die cut. I didn't want to cut the smaller words, but I think that's like kind of, I don't know if you've ever heard this like with like makeup, is that you should either like emphasize your eyes or your lips or something, you know, like pick one area of the face to emphasize with makeup. And I think that can kind of be good advice with crafting. Also like the whole idea of like look in the mirror and take one thing off before you head out, like so you don't have too many things going on. But I'm thinking more of the idea of like if you go really, really detailed in all aspects, sometimes you actually stop noticing things. Like by having a simpler sentiment or a more solid pattern paper, I think it kind of draws more attention to this little ghost that I put the extra time into. And so then I will pop up that sentiment with a little, like some scraps of cardstock instead of foam tape, but foam tape will work great as well. Found this video helpful? Here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.